In our world today that is devoid of an overarching story, oftentimes we not only live out of particular false stories, but we live out of fragmented stories. This came home to me a few years ago when Deb and I were in seminary, and I was studying and she was working at Warner Brothers, and we developed a friendship with Doug and Rachel. We would go to dinner about once a month, and one month we were sitting at dinner, and the three of them were telling stories about how there was all of this sort of drama and backstabbing going on at the studio, and one particular person was getting advanced and promoted, and none of them thought he was a very nice person and that he had sort of cheated his way to the top. And my friend Doug said, "Man, I wish that I could cheat and backstab my way to the top, but I think I'd be a lot more successful, but I just can't do it." After a while, Rachel looked at me and she said, "Scott, you're working on your doctorate in ethics and you're a minister. This conversation has to drive you crazy." And I said, "No, actually, I'm really fascinated by it." In fact, I said, "Doug, I have a question for you. A little while ago, you said that if you had cheated and backstabbed, you'd be more successful. I'm just interested to know why haven't you done that then? Why haven't you cheated your way to the top?" And he looked at me and said, "I can't believe that my one pastor friend would be asking me why I can't cheat and backstab my way to the top." And I said to him, "No, listen, I know why I can't. I mean, I have all sorts of convictions, all sorts of stories that tell me why I can't do that, but you don't share any of those. You don't share any of my convictions. I'm just interested to know why you can't." That question really bothered him. In fact, the rest of the dinner, I could tell he was sitting over there thinking about his answer to that question. Finally, about the time dessert came, he came up with an answer. He goes, "Okay, Daniels, I know why I can't do this." He said, "You know, my grandmother was Catholic, and I think every time I'm in one of those situations where I'm tempted to cheat or to lie or to sort of backstab my way to success, it's just like a bad sitcom where my grandmother pops up on my shoulder and says, 'Doug, you can't do that.'" And so we laughed about that a little bit, and on the way home, Debbie said to me, "Wow, you really caught Doug tonight, didn't you?" I said, "Yeah, it was really funny to hear his answer to the question why he can't do those things." And I said, "You know, he and Rachel are about to have a baby. And the question I wanted to ask, but I wasn't brave enough to ask, was someday when your son or daughter is tempted to cheat or backstab their way to the top, what will be the story that will keep them from doing that? What will be the narrative, the story that they lean back on that tells them why there's something more important than climbing the ladder of success?" And we never got to have that conversation, but I'm reminded often of the ways in which our fragmented lives lead us to lead kind of interesting ethical lives, but how desperately we need a cohesive story, and how thankful I am that for us as the people of God, we have a story that allows us to enter in, to allow us to know how we ought to live our lives in consistent and cohesive and holy ways.